Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Levi with Mailbox Money. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Howard Polansky, founder of Financially Led and creator of the DIY cash flow optimization system. Howard began his career as a practicing dentist before a personal family health crisis completely changed the direction of his life and career. Today, he helps dentists, doctors, healthcare professionals, entrepreneurs, and business owners better understand their cash flow so they can increase their take home pay, reduce financial stress, and buy back time without simply working harder, taking on more patients. Howard, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Levi. Good to be here.
All right, sir. I'd like to leave a little breathing room here at the beginning and let the people know a little bit about yourself personally and where you're coming from.
Yeah, so I've now lived in Austin, Texas for the past 20 years, but prior to that, I was in Japan for 3 years because I was a dentist for the Navy. They paid for dental school. I owed years back as a dentist, got out, had my own private practice, 16 years total. Levi, the problem was I hated it. I was
Really?
burnt out. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You ask most dentists in a quiet corner, they're going to tell you they're miserable. All right. Um, but I was burnt out. I didn't know where to go, how to pivot. And sometimes life leaves you little clues, and other times life hits you with a two by four. My two by four moment was Sunday morning, Memorial Day weekend, 2018. Jaden, my older son, is 12 years old. I'm sitting next to his bed. He realizes I'm there and he says, Dad. His voice is barely above a whisper. Yeah, buddy. I lean over the bed. I put my ear over his mouth to make sure I can hear him. And he says three words I'll never forget. Am I dying?
Man, that's
12 days earlier, Jaden came home with a stomach ache. 3 days after the stomach ache, we're in the ICU in the children's hospital having emergency surgery. It was appendicitis that turned septic, 29 days in the hospital, 19 of them in the ICU, 8 straight days of sedation because he went to the operating room 5 times. After they take the tube out of his throat, they give him methadone and morphine to bring him down from the drugs he was on. So, Levi, imagine your child looks like a heroin addict coming down from a high. And the very first question they will only ask you are those three words. Am I dying?
it almost leads me to tears right now. I can't imagine actually living through that experience.
Yeah, it was hell. And I'm saying the G-rated version of that. Um, it was pure hell. But after telling Jaden, no, you're gonna be okay, I walk out that room and I broke. I was already miserable. I was burnt out. I was taking it out on everyone around me. But when I broke, only one thought seared into my mind. If life is this fragile and I'm unhappy with the path that I'm on, burn the ships. It's over. And so that's what I did. I sold my practice. September 2018, just walked away. Now, I don't want to forget because everyone's like, is your son okay? The answer is yes. He is now almost 21. He's healthy, no long term health issues. So it was just a very, very freak thing, but it was the wake up call in terms of there's got to be a different path.
I would say not just the two. You got hit with the lead pipe, my friend. Yeah, and it I'm glad it got you on the direction you're on today.
Yeah, me too.
So, okay, going back, we've sold the practice. What's the thought process during that time? Where are you going from there?
Great question. It was a real big identity shift, one in terms of shedding the layers of who I was. Because for so many years, someone asks, well, what do you do? It's like, well, I'm a dentist. And people understand that. They understand, quote unquote, the success of being a doctor and all of that. But even though it looked like on the outside I was crushing it, I was just getting crushed in terms of life. But the in that transition of getting out of dentistry, and I didn't know at the time it was a fluke, but I got my house payment down to $24.19.
Yeah.
I share this with another dentist literally as a joke. And because few weeks earlier, we had lunch together and he asked the question of, how are you walking away? Levi, you probably don't have any basis on this, which is fine. Most people don't. The average dental school in the United States for the 4 years of dental school, that dentist is walking out with roughly $400,000 of debt just for those 4 years. The top most expensive dental schools, which is in Los Angeles and New York, it's closer to 800,000.
That's
I'm
some
not
crippling
talking,
amount of debt.
yeah, I'm not talking college. I'm not talking if you then specialize. I'm not talking in terms of buying a practice or starting a practice. I'm not talking about a house. I'm not talking about cars. I'm talking just the 4 years of dental school. So he asked the question of, how are you walking away? And I make one dumb comment, which changes everything. I kind of figured out how to make money move. He gives me that Scooby Doo look. I tried to explain things that day. I didn't do a good job. But when I send him the picture of the $24 house, the payment, the statement, all he writes back is, I see it. I still don't understand what you're doing. I'm buying a condo next month. Will you teach me? Like, I guess. He pays off that condo in 8 months instead of 30 years. And so he tells his business partner, I tell a friend of mine what happened. They become the next two people I teach. And now I listen to my heart instead of my head. And it's like, oh, this is how you're supposed to help people. Is I now call it the financial liberation protocol. You
Okay.
want to shorten that down? It's the flip. Okay. How do we flip the system so that money is moving for your benefit and not the banks? Because it's all set up in terms of trying to keep you indebted.
Hmm.
And in all of these fixed payments, where all of a sudden you have no maneuverability. And so I am here to not expand your money per se. It's because there's two ways in terms of increasing cash flow. It's either earn more money, preferably passively, or is there a way to get rid of the fixed debt payments from your life so that you can live the same lifestyle that you have, but now it just costs you dramatically less? And that's the part that I focus on because most people just don't see how to do that.
Yeah, that before breaking that down even more and going a little bit more in depth, I like to think of, kind of the bank paying the bank the interest and everything on everything you own, similar to casino. There's a reason why the casino is such a nice place, has the best machinery around. Same with banks. They're in some pretty nice buildings and prime locations, right?
Pretty much. Yep.
Yeah.
If it's not a dentist and a pharmacist, it's a bank on the corner. So,
Ain't that the truth? So yeah, Howard, please get into kind of your system a little bit and break down what you told us broadly there.
yeah. So, what I am showing people how to do is utilize lines of credit in a very strategic fashion. Okay. So let's just explain what exactly is a line of credit, which I'm guessing most of your audience knows, but for first time listeners, or maybe they're new to the whole game, a line of
Perfect.
credit's an open ended tool. Easiest example is a credit card. You call up a bank, you get approved for a $10,000 limit, you purchase $3,000 of goods and services. At the due date, if you don't pay the $3,000 off, you still have $7,000 available in the line. I call that availability access to cash. But once you pay the $3,000 off, you have the full $10,000 available again. So money's flowing in and flowing through this tool. Other common examples is a business line of credit, where if you are a business owner, dentist, doctor, manufacturing widgets, whatever it is, the rule of thumb is 10% of your annual revenue. So if you're a $2 million business, you should be able to get a $200,000 business line of credit. The final common example is a home equity line of credit. This is what I use to get down to the $24 house payment. I don't have a mortgage anymore. I don't have a one-way street where the money goes in, you can't get the money back out. And Levi, do you find any irony in that a mortgage and an amortization table have the same root word? MORT, as mortuary and mortician.
I'd say there is a bit of irony in that.
Yeah, I mean, mortgage literally is two French words put together that means death pledge. Okay. So the system is set up for you to make payments until the day you die, or you're going to die trying. But now I just shared the key. I shared the key to flip the system so that you can utilize all of your money effectively against your debt and then pull out the expenses when needed. And that excess cash flow is paying down your debt faster and faster and faster. So I know we're kind of short on time, but I'm hoping I can just give kind of a simple example of the concept.
We would love to hear it.
So I've got a new client of mine. He's actually a very, very good friend. Um, and I'm going through his numbers and I'm like, okay, do you have any car payments? And he's like, we do. I was like, all right, what does it cost? He's like, the two cars together, it's about $2,000 a month. How much debt do you have on those two cars? He goes, it's about 60 grand. I said, great. If we go get a home equity line of credit, which we got about $135,000, and we move those two loans of $60,000 onto the line of credit, what happens? Two things. Number one, the $2,000 fixed payments goes away. But the alarm bells ring in people's head to say, wait a second, I had these car loans at 0.9 or 1.9 or 2.9%. Now you're telling me to go to an 8% line of credit. Why
Quite
would
the
I do
opposite of
this?
most logical thinking. Yep, yep, fair question.
Yep. The reason why is because you don't pay an interest rate, you pay a payment. And with a line of credit, the only thing that you owe is just the interest that's accrued over those 30 days. And so in this example, that $2,000 fixed payment goes away, but a $60,000 balance at 8%, it now goes down to $400. And so, Levi, I'm going to ask you, if it was a tight month for whatever reason, which would be easier to pay, 2,000 or 400?
I would go with the latter on that one.
Right. And so in this example, we just freed up $1,600 a month in cash flow, not changing anything else about your lifestyle. I didn't say you had to eat ramen noodles. I didn't say that, it's got to be rice and beans. I didn't say you have to cut Netflix. I didn't say you have to go down to one phone. All of that stays exactly the same. But with him being in a 100% commissions sales job, that flexibility, that buffer, all of a sudden just gives the breathing room that when things are good, we pay that debt down because we can get the money back. But when
Mhm.
things are a little bit slower, all right, it's an annoyance, but it's not a crisis anymore.
What would you say? So you were kind of touching on it, giving that breathing room. How much power is it in buying back people's time that way when you're not being choked out by a fixed payment each month?
It's a fantastic question. So let's keep on with his example. All right. So we've got the house, we have a couple of cars, they're looking at putting in a pool in their brand new house. And when I say brand new house, I mean they bought it 6 months ago. So they have 29 and a half years left on this
Hmm.
house. Now, thankfully, he does pretty well. But in terms of getting rid of all of the debt, for his example, everyone's going to be different, depends upon your cash flow. Instead of taking 29 and a half more years, he can pay off everything in under six. And so just imagine not thinking about your personal life. You didn't have a mortgage, you didn't have a house payment, you didn't have car payments, you didn't have student loans, and you're freeing up 23 years of time in this example. That
That's
that
not nothing.
those Right, those funds can now be used elsewhere in terms of creating passive income. And and more importantly is that it's a line of credit. So he could have no house payment but have access to, depending upon your state, 80 to 90% of the value of your house. It's literally sitting there as access to cash. So for your audience, imagine it was a $500,000 house. You had no house payment, but you had access to $400,000. And an opportunity comes up, $25,000, $50,000 investment. Well, now you get to sit back and be like a bank to say, if I pull $50,000 out of my line of credit, and that's costing me 7 to 8%, is the investment I'm putting it into, will I get 10, 12, 15% or more? It's arbitrage. It's
Hmm.
exactly what banks are doing to us. Hey, we'll give you 3% to put in the savings account. Well, what do? You then ask for a mortgage and they're going to charge you 6.5%. It's the exact same thing. It's now working for you and not for the banks.
I think it's a very common misconception with people with, putting money in the banks that they're just sitting and holding on to that. No, they're putting that money to work. Why wouldn't you want to put your money to work as well, right?
Yeah, the answer is yes, and the one major difference between us and a bank is that fractional reserve lending, they're allowed to take our dollar and lend out 10 to then really amplify what their
Yeah.
profitability is. That's a whole different podcast. We'll get to that a different day. But
That's
the concept is the same, is it's going to cost me X to take money out of the line of credit. Can I earn a return higher than what the cost is? And no matter what you do, there's always going to be a cost. There's always an opportunity cost. And so it's just a matter of, if I do this, then how do I know how to pay it back? And that's what the whole flip is the system to know that I can make an investment and I know how to pay myself back appropriately.
So, Howard, every financial strategy has some kind of pitfall. Where do you usually get with people where you see that they get in trouble trying to improve their financial situation?
Yeah. So when it comes to specifically this idea, this concept, there's four major risks. Number one, you have to have the cash flow to start. If your income is not greater than your expenses on a consistent basis, this will not work. Period. End of story. It's just math. Number two, the rate is
And
variable. Number two, the rate is variable. And so people kind of get freaked out about that. But again, going back to that car example, I don't care about the interest rate. I care about what's the outflow of cash that's occurring. Okay. Number three, a line of credit can get closed. Everyone goes back 20 years. I thought they were closing lines of credit everywhere. The answer is yeah, not really. The problem is that you hear the headlines from Mace Bank and Hell's Cargo and Crank of America and Capital One. Why? They're the mega banks. They are going to get the headlines. But I have spoken to enough bankers from regional banks, community banks, and credit unions, and the answer is consistent. As long as someone is being a good steward of your line, we didn't have to do a thing, which leads to the final risk. And that is you, meaning you, the audience, raids the piggy bank. That all of a sudden you see this giant wad of cash and think, oh, I can just dip into this and money is just going to magically appear somewhere else. No, you have to be a good steward of the money. I'm not here to say that, I'm not here proselytizing in terms of Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman. But Levi, I'm guessing that they are talking to the 90% of people who do not understand their income needs to be greater than
yep.
expenses, and your audience is the top 10%. The rules are different. If you only knew that
Correct.
there were different rules, and that's what this is.
Yeah, I've also a lot of conversations I have with people. You mentioned Dave Ramsey, and I heard a few of the Dave Ramsey expressions, rice and beans, and all that. Is that yes, for the common person who's not going to actually be critically thinking and being a good steward of their money, Dave's plan is probably best for them, right? But that's not to say that that is the best plan out there.
100%.
Well, Howard, for people who are seeking to learn more about what you're doing or get advice from you personally, where would you be sending them to?
Yeah, you can reach out to me. I'm giving you my cell phone. So just text me. It's 512-608-1020. Or you can go to financiallyled.com. You can get the ebook. It's free. And I do a free 15-minute assessment because I don't want anyone going into this blind. It's a different way to think about this. It's a different belief. It's a different mindset. I'd rather you take 15 minutes of my time to know that, hey, this can work for you. If you want to go do it on your own, great. If you want my help, I'll tell you how all of that works. Or if I get the numbers from you, and again, just in 15 minutes, I can say, look, this can be really dangerous for you, or until you do these other two or three things first, I would not explore this because you can get yourself in really bad trouble. I don't want to see anyone get in trouble. But for the right people, this becomes such an amplifier in terms of getting closer to what are your goals, what are your dreams, and going back to your line, how do you want to spend your time? What is the impact you want to make on in this world?
One final question before we let you go, Howard. If someone's listening to this right now and they're making good money, but they still feel stressed every month, what is the first thing you'd encourage them to go out and do?
The very first thing that I would encourage someone to do is go get a home equity line of credit. And the reason why you never have to use it the way that I explained it today. But if you have it in place, it's just an emergency fund. It's just a buffer that's there in case a crisis occurs. So, beautiful story. I was just came back from vacation, but the last day, just chatting with this lady, single mom. She's a librarian in a school district, and she asked me this question: "What is the one thing you would tell me to do?" And I'm like, "Go get a line of credit." She's like, "A home equity line of credit?" I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, "Why?" It's like, "Because it's just an emergency buffer." She's like, "Okay, what do you mean? How much do you think your house is worth?" She goes, "About 450. How much is the mortgage that's left?" 160,000. I'm like, "Would you rather have just your emergency savings or your emergency savings plus an extra $160,000 just in case you needed it?" She's like, "Well, the latter." I'm like, "Then go get a home equity line of credit." That's why. Don't have to worry about anything else I said. Just have access to cash. You have access to cash, you sleep better at night, period.
Howard, thank you so much for sharing a personal story and what woke you up to walking this path that you're on now. Glad everything turned out great for you, and now that you're out here helping others, we really appreciate all the insights you've given us today, sir.
Thank you, Levi. Glad I could share.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you guys on the next one.